Tuesdays with Morrie, the orientation. As I turned the rental car into Morrie Street in West Newton, a quiet suburb of Boston, I had a cup of coffee in one hand and a cellular phone between my ear and shoulder. I was talking to a TV producer about a piece we were doing. My eyes jumped from the digital clock. My return flight was in a few hours, to the mailbox numbers on the tree-lined suburban street. The car radio was on, the all-news station. This is how I operated, 5 things at once. "Roll back the tape," I said to the producer. "Let me hear that part again." "Okay," he said. "It's going to take a second." Suddenly, I was upon the house. I pushed the brakes, spilling coffee in my lap. As the car stopped, I caught a glimpse of a large Japanese maple tree and 3 figures sitting near it in the driveway. A young man, a middle-aged woman flanking a small old man in a wheelchair, Morrie. At the sight of my old professor, I froze. "Hello," the professor said in my ear. "Did I lose you?" Hello, the producer said in my ear. "Did I lose you?" I had not seen him in 16 years. His hair was thinner, nearly white, and his face was gaunt. I suddenly felt unprepared for this reunion. For one thing, I was stuck on the phone, and I hoped that he hadn't noticed my arrival so that I could drive around the block a few more times, finish my business, get mentally ready. But Morrie, this new, withered version of a man I had once known so well, was smiling at the car, hands folded in his lap, waiting for me to emerge. "Hey," the producer said again, "are you there?" For all the time we'd spent together, for all the kindness and patience Morrie had shown me when I was young, I should have dropped the phone and jumped from the car, run and held him, kissed him hello. Instead, I killed the engine and sunk down off the seat as if I was looking for something. Yeah, I'm here," I whispered, and I continued my conversation with the TV producer until we were finished. I did what I had become best at doing. I tended to my work, even while my dying professor waited on the front lawn. I am not proud of this, but this is what I did. Now, 5 minutes later, Morrie was hugging me, his thinning hair rubbing against my cheek. I had told him I was searching for my keys. That's what has taken me so long in the car, and I squeezed him tighter, as if I could crush my little lie. Although the spring sunshine was warm, he wore a windbreaker and his legs were covered by a blanket. He smelled faintly sour, the way people on medication sometimes do. With his face pressed close to mine, I could hear his labored breathing in my ear. "My old friend," he whispered, "you've come back at last." He rocked against me, not letting go, his hands reaching up for my elbows as I bent over him. I was surprised at such affection after all these years. But then, in the stone walls I had built between my present and my past, I had forgotten how close we once were. I remembered graduation day, the briefcase, his tears at my departure, and I swallowed because I knew deep down that I was no longer the good gift-bearing student he remembered. I only hoped that, for the next few hours, I could fool him. Inside the house, we sat at a walnut dining room table near a window that looked out on the neighbor's house. Morrie fussed with his wheelchair, trying to get comfortable, as was his custom. He wanted to feed me, and I said, "All right." One of the helpers, a stout Italian woman named Connie, cut up bread and tomatoes and brought containers of chicken salad, hummus, and tabbouleh. She also brought some pills. Morrie looked at them and sighed. His eyes were more sunken than I remembered, and his cheekbones were more pronounced. This gave him a harsher, older look, until he smiled, of course, and the sagging cheeks gathered up like curtains. "Mitch," he said softly, "you know that I'm dying." I knew. "All right then." Morrie swallowed the pills, put down the paper cup, inhaled deeply, then let it out. "Shall I tell you what it's like?" "What it's like to die?" "Yes," he said. Although I was unaware of it, our last class had just begun. In my freshman year, Morrie is older than most of the teachers, and I am younger than most of the students. Having left high school a year early, to compensate for my youth on campus, I wear old gray sweatshirts and I box in a local gym, and walk around with an unlit cigarette in my mouth, even though I do not smoke. I drive up a beat-up Mercury Cougar with the windows down and the music up. I seek my identity in toughness, but it is Morrie's softness that draws me, and because he does not look at me as a kid trying to be something more than I am, I relax. I finish that first course with him and enroll for another. He is an easy marker. He does not much care for grades. One year, they say, during the Vietnam War, Morrie gave all his male students A's to help them keep their student deferments. I begin to call Morrie Coach, the way I used to address my high school track coach. Morrie likes the nickname. "Coach," he says. "All right, I'll be your coach, and you can be my player. You can play all the lovely parts of life that I'm too old for now." Sometimes we eat together in the cafeteria. Morrie, to my delight, is even more of a slob than I am. He talks instead of chewing, laughs with his mouth open, delivers a passionate thought about a mouthful of egg salad, the yellow pieces spewing from his teeth. It cracks me up. The whole time I know him, I have 2 overwhelming desires, to hug him and to give him a napkin. That's in the chapter, the orientation with Tuesdays and Morrie. Tuesdays with Morrie. Morrie seems like a really likable guy. I think I would really enjoy his company. However, I do have a pet peeve of people who chew with their mouth open. And I've seen wealthy people do this, and I've seen not wealthy people do this, and it's just a huge pet peeve of mine. You know, just chew with your mouth closed. I don't know why. Well, I don't know why it annoys me. Well, I guess when we were kids, I would always chew with my mouth open, but my twin brother wouldn't. And our father, I had a really terrible, horrible father, and he would always yell at us. He wouldn't ever talk to us individually. We were always like the same person. So he's like, "Chew with your mouth closed. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth when you're chewing." And I'd always think like, dude, I always chew my mouth when I'm chewing. You know, he's the one. You know, like, and still to this day, like, my brother and me have gotten into fights when we're like eating in the same room, and I'm like, chew with your mouth closed. And it just jumps off the table. So. But anyways, that's not to do with the book, Tuesdays with Warrior, that particular chapter, the orientation. It is kind of sad. You know, he's like the writer, the author, the narrator, the student. He doesn't recognize his old professor, Morrie, after only 16 years. Where were you 16 years ago? You know, where I was 16 years ago, it doesn't seem like that long ago, you know. But really it was, you know, and like, that shows how much somebody can change in 16 years, you know. Like, how old, do you know who I am? Do you know how old I am? Well, how old would I look if I was 16 years ago? Would I look the exact same? It is a depressing thought, you know. There aren't any, like, 60-year-olds out there that look like 20-year-olds. You would think, there's a lot of 60-year-olds that act like 20-year-olds. You would think, which is okay at times, you would think that there would be a few like 20-year-olds that look like 60-year-olds or 60-year-olds that look like 20-year-olds. There's so many different people out there, but I guess that's one thing everybody shares with each other is life and death and the different processes we go through in it.